one of my fondest memories was seeing Tim Worley in Far More. You know what I'm saying? Seeing Tim Worley in Far More when I was young. My older was like, look. I was like, Mom, it's Tim Worley.
Peace. This is the Ash Oldhead podcast with Justice Rajee. So we're about to get into the first episode of the season, the real season. I did slide one out there at the end of June, and a bit of haste and a bit of excitement, maybe before I really wanted to go. And I'm going to rebroadcast that episode, repost that episode with a little bit more detail, a little more definition in the coming weeks. But today we're really kicking off the first official episode of the season with my brother Divine Culture. I'll let the interview speak for itself, but what I want to give you on the front end is just a little context of what was happening when this was coming together and why we were together. So my view and my vision for 2019 has been unity and connection and accountability amongst my own circle. All right. So when I say unity, meaning, the challenge of growing older is the maintenance of the relationships you form when you're younger, as the context, the conditions that you lived in when you were a young man change, the responsibilities you have, the concerns you have. I guess to quote the J. Cole lyric, that was my main concern back when concerns were lesser. Certain things were really big issues and big concerns when I was a younger man, and now that I'm a man in, I guess I would say, in the meaty middle of life, at 43, you recognize how precious the relationships you have are, how important it is, though, actually to be intentional about the maintenance, and how fragile what you may have taken for granted as it just happened when you was in your 20s, or y'all, that was your old head, or that was your young boy, and y'all just had this certain vibe or energy, but there's actually a commitment that is required, as I see it, to maintain our bonds. And as any circle of friends and brothers and people, across the spectrums of gender, what have you, you as you age, as you move through life, you diverge, not out of a difference of care, a difference of concern, but you diverge as you have other things that you need to be concerned about as you further roll out into the vision of who you want to be. And it's been my mission to make sure some of the threads of my life, some of the lines of my life are converging back together. And as I'm trying to do and make certain things happen, that I'm creating the space to bring people together. I mean, quite simply, and yes, I hope other people benefit, but also because this is something that I need. I need the relationships and the time with my friends. I need the experience of sharing certain parts of my life as it is now with my brothers, with some of my sisters, with my physical family, with other people who are part of my pantheon. My life is I'm aging. My kids are getting older, and my moves that I'm trying to make for myself and the things I'm trying to spend my time on, I want to ensure certain things that I did not allow something to change or not go well only because I didn't pay attention to it. So saying that to say, I initiated in March of this year, around the week time of my birthday, to try to bring those who were able to travel and meet up with me together to deal with some social equality and some fun time, but also to really take a moment to share around our goals, what things we're doing, things we're trying to do, whether professionally, personally, family, what have you, what things were really important, and some centering around, how can we be accountability partners? How can we be an aid to each other in being successful in those undertakings and in those changes or those new growth areas. So this interview, really it was an opportunity that I ensured was a part of, because that was part of the trip as well, was to get, to cut some tape, to get some interviews with folks that it would be difficult for me to get elsewhere. So my brother Divine Culture was gracious enough to share and add on with me. And so you are going to get the opportunity to share and get to learn a little bit about him, and take the best part for yourself as always. And we're going to go from there. So please listen and enjoy. Peace. Peace. This is the Ask Your Oldhead podcast with Justice Rajee and my guest, my brother Divine Culture. Peace, Divine.
Peace, Justice.
How you doing today?
Yo, I'm feeling very well today. I'm enthused about this weekend. I'm enthused about this day, this exchange I'm having with my brothers, and more specifically to celebrate your life.
Oh, all right. Peace.
So yeah,
peace to God.
Yeah, it's a very monumental day, and I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a reflection for 2019.
Indeed. So let's get into it. So I always start with just anybody you want to get some props or some reverence and respect to before we get into the general questions.
Yeah, peace to my ancestors. You know what I mean? Those who came before me. Peace to the Powerborn family and all my loved ones close and dear to me. Peace to Washington, D.C.
All right. Peace. So the first question, can you give me a standard or a principle that you try to live by or apply in your life?
A standard and a principle. This is twofold, but education and culture mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because I'm an educator, but even when I was young, I've been into the marriage of education and culture. Mm-hmm. One of my first gigs was working at Wonder Ink Collectibles on Liberty Avenue, which was a car collectible shop. Mm. So I used to put the little cards in the plastic. And, it was just me. I was like 11, 12 years old. That was one of my first jobs. The other job I worked for the Post-Gazette as a paper boy. But the card shop was actually my first experience with data, because I used to look at the back of the cards and look at running backs, specifically running backs and wide receivers, their data.
Okay.
So there I began to learn and appreciate the fine details of things.
Right.
So that's like a mixture of education and culture. And that was young, but as I got older in high school, and even, that area of the University of Pittsburgh, when I look at it now, it meant a lot in my life, because prior to even getting knowledge of self, my next door neighbor was Eric Mobley. You know what I'm saying? So he used to take me and a couple of my boys, all get in his Blazer, the trucks. Mm-hmm. He had a Blazer, back in the day, and he used to take us to the game. So I'd be I'd be in the games and looking at, of course the game, but then the cultural dynamics, because there was Puerto Ricans on the team, Orlando, Antigua, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was my first, okay, these are the other types of original people, know. So he exposed me to that, as well as New Balance. I saw my first pair of New Balance sneakers, which meant something to me. It still means something to me now. When I think he had some huge roll bars. He was a size 14, so it was it wasn't hard to miss.
Indeed.
Being on the University of Pittsburgh as a middle school student, and then being in a program called Investing Now, and then being attracted to the several girls in Upper Bound, I became gravitated to education, and then culture as well. So those are some of my underpinnings in regards to why I appreciate education and culture. Mm-hmm. And unshockingly, I wanted to become a school teacher at a young age, an elementary school teacher.
Is there an aspect of culture specifically like pulled from those two that maybe any like a story or something that's happened to you that elevated the importance of culture for you in some way?
I would. It goes back to school, but going to Schilling High School, there was in the atmosphere, there was this school spirit thing that took place. And the school spirit kind of gave me a sense of belonging. And while I was on that campus for high school, there were certain little small things I looked at, because the high school was so close to University of Pittsburgh again. So seeing like Javon Buckner in the Ghetto Times magazine, him passing them out on the corner of Fifth Avenue, and the Black Action Society parties. The Black Action Society speaking series. Several speakers. That was that kind of pushed the envelope regarding embracing Black culture. And I had a mentor as well, piece of Daryl Tariq Wiley. He's the first person who told me about the science of eating chicken and why I shouldn't eat chicken, as well as he introduced me to Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And he also introduced me to, the understanding that Egypt was the land of the Black people, and those were, our ancestors. So that was at an early age, in 8th grade. But so all this stuff, began to cross-pollinate from middle school to high school. And by that time, I already knew that I wanted to be a school teacher. So that whole experience was kind of like pushing me forward to the acquisition of knowledge.
All right. Hey, so relationships, broadly defined. Is there something that you understand now or you've learned about relationships that you do or understand differently now than you maybe understood when you were a younger man?
Oh, yeah. I would probably say meeting people where they are, we always, there's this, equality, equity, equality is to share things. Equity is to meet people where they are. I wish I'd have known that before, because at times I would demonstrate an inward mindset, like, yo, why doesn't this person understand? Instead of taking an outward mindset about the possible reasons why that person may not understand, or the possible levers that drives that person's behavior, and that would make our relationship better, because, there's intimate relationships with females, there's relationships with brothers, there's relationships with family members after you get knowledge of yourself, which can be kind of like they want things to be shared with them explicitly, but I may have not known how to do it, or I was kind of aggressive when I got the knowledge. But I would say responding to people in a manner that would solve the conflict or the misunderstanding, instead of, meeting iron with iron. Like it just hasn't worked. So yeah, my approach to things would be completely different. Yeah.
Is there with that, is there any particular like techniques that you take or self-regulation that you do to like meet that practice that maybe you didn't do in the past?
Right. So when I was 19, 20, I began to learn about supreme mathematics and how it's like a tool to utilize. I often reflect on it reflexively, meaning like, since it's my standard, it's kind of like, what is today's mathematics, to see if it can help me navigate a situation. It's almost like the WWJD, like what would Jesus do, little wristbands that people used to wear a lot. Like I just would like, okay, like anytime a situation happens, or it could be positive, negative, like, what's today's mathematics? And I can extract something from those principles to guide me. You know, so and then a lot of times I can just be honest with myself and be a reflective black man. Like, how can I help this situation go better? You know, because that has a different tone with like, how can I get my way? You know, you know, it's like, how can I make it go better? Looks at it from, it looks at the ecology of a situation from a larger lens. But when I be like, yo, how can I get what I want? It's again, it's inward thought. It's not an outward thought. I'm not thinking about everybody. And I learned that as a teacher as well. Like when you have like a hard to reach student, you know, like I can respond differently where I keep the entire classroom setting in mind instead of that one student. So from learning that from teaching, I began to apply it to people. And like, I mean, because there's a couple people who deserve to get popped off on as of late, and I just respond differently because, you know, as I'm still in my 30s, but as I flirt with my 40s, it's kind of like I don't want to always be enveloped in stress because things aren't going my way. And I've learned that it's like with leadership, which I'm dealing with now as a central office leader, it's like getting people to do things that I want them to do or we need them to do and them wanting to do it. Yeah. So a lot of times that's more about relationship building. Yeah. And that's another thing regarding relationships, actually building a relationship with people before engaging in trust. You know what I mean? Certain virtues. And one more thing is, you know, to try to revisit some of those things that aren't spoken about a lot, like honor and integrity, doing things when people aren't looking and them being according to my makeup as a man.
All right, that's because I just wanted to pull something out of there that I heard too in terms of that there can be, sometimes it sounds like you could have what you want and what would be good, you know, or what could be great for us could be the same, but we also want to acknowledge that sometimes what you want and what may be the best for either you or the parties that you're engaged with may not be about what you want. And I think that often we can, especially even in the service of something righteous or doing the right thing or in service to a community need or in your field in terms of education, you could get hazy. And I think acknowledging, like, you know, wait a minute, let me figure out what do we actually need to happen here is a really important piece of something to think about. You know what I mean? Word, it's heavy.
Yeah, I you know, and I my reading now is like, before it was like when I was young, it was like celebratory reading, like, yo man, you gotta read this book, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was usually by a celebrated author, but now I find myself, you know, reading, like, I don't know who the author is, but it's just a case study on a particular subject. And you know, the anonymous nature of those type of texts helps me grapple with the subject more instead of the person. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, and here's another way I've opted to deal with people, and it comes from this story. There was a Northeast Washington D.C., and there was a family that was having a cookout in the backyard, and you know, men, women, and children. So out of nowhere, this guy comes, a opposed robber, who appeared to be a robber, was like, "Yo, this is a stick up. Give me everything you got." And put the gun to the head of a 14-year-old child. Actual story. And he was like, "Yo, give me what you got." And everybody's, you know, trying to negotiate with him, etc. And then this one particular lady was like, "Yo, we're out here having a glass of wine. Would you like to have a glass of wine?" So she disarmed him. She shocked him. He was like, "What?" So, you know, she was like, "Here, just take this glass of wine." He starts sipping the wine. Next thing you know, he's distilling all these different things about his life, and they wind up having a group hug, and, you know, he walks away, and After he leaves, they call the police, and the police come and they go around the block and they find that glass of wine sitting down on the cement, not broken at all. So and the police officer said, we've never seen this type of robbery before, but it wasn't a robbery because that one lady was able to disarm that person. You know what I'm saying? Disarm them and then demonstrate humility, like, yo, you can come and have some drinks with us as well. But that type of adaptive thinking is what I've used in environments where I've taught, whether it's in a correctional facility, whether it's in a marginalized area of Washington, D.C., I've used that to try to see how I could best approach it. And then, mathematics is my foundation. So these things are additives, to help me reinforce, my the rules and standards I live by.
All right. Man, that's a powerful story. It's almost the
It's being studied too.
Yeah.
That particular story has been studied about what the psychology of the interaction.
Yeah, so it's like there's pieces there of like reframing sort of this relationship without making sort of an oppositional dynamic,
Right.
Which is remarkable,
Right.
given the circumstances. You know what I mean? Wow. All right. So third prime question. So what's just something that's really important for you in your life right now?
Right now, writing has been very important to me. I mean, I can speak about family and all that, but that's cliche. Writing is very important to me. I've met two influential individuals, and they've both said to me the same thing. One was Michael Eric Dyson. This was in Georgia Avenue. I think I was on to get some cheese. I seen Michael Eric Dyson. He was coming out of Nando Perry's, and I was like, yo, I'm an adjunct faculty member at UDC, yada, yada, yada. Any recommendations? He's like, yo, you need to write. Just keep writing. And then I somehow I wound up at a BET Hip Hop Honors Award ceremony. This was at the time I was promoting. I was in the streets. I was promoting heavy. I was teaching during the day, adjunct faculty during the night, and I was promoting parties. And I ran into Spike Lee, and he actually said something about a hat I had on. And I was like, yo, I'm from Pittsburgh. And he went into this whole Willie Stargell. He's a huge Willie Stargell fan.
Right. Yeah, very good.
So we just going back and forth. And he was like, yo, when we got on the writing thing, he's like, I tell everybody the same thing. You need to write. Then I ran into him again in Union Station, like, write. So, because my background is creative writing, but now I'm interested in academic writing, which was a struggle for me because some of my language, which I used to call high-tech dialect, and I still do, that's not good for academic writing because it's too interpretative. But I come from a hip-hop community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hip-hop background. So having certain adjectives and adverbs always sounded cool to me. But when you get to academic writing and they're like, yo, we need you to make this very plain and linear, I come from a Toni Morrison type of background, Mary Baraka, so it was difficult, So right now I'm interested in writing to almost like, as you were doing today, like stilling, STILLING, like to still the things that we experience as Black folks, but more specifically with education. So, and alongside that, I'm interested in doing op-eds too. I got 3 publications coming out. They're strictly academic journals, but one is a chapter book about higher education for Black males. Another is a research project on Black and brown students at George Mason, and another one is a book review for Columbia Teachers College on relational leadership. So yeah, that's really what what matters to me right now is, I think, and it's almost like a legacy type of thing as well. But I just want to be. I just want to write. You know what I mean? I just want to write. And it's funny because I overheard a conversation today about brothers talking about writing, and I also got a jewel not too long ago. And I do it like I at least write an hour for a day. You know, an hour a day is 5 hours out of a Monday through Friday. Even if it's the notes on the phone, you know what I'm saying? I miss catching the subway because when I catch the subway, I used to get so much stuff done just like typing, whether I'm seeing something or, you know, so that's one recommendation I give to anybody who's trying to write, because I got that from actually a very renowned scholar who was just like a regular dude to me, and I didn't know he was a renowned scholar.
Just somebody you knew. Like,
he was just like somebody I knew, and then I found out he was like a renowned scholar. But, you know, he said, you know, you need to be writing at least an hour a day. So I do it reflexively, and I just enjoy doing it. And quiet as kept, what actually, I was a writer before. I was a writer like in 99, 2000, and then, but what amplified my writing is when my brothers and sisters as well, peace to Medina, brothers had blogs, you know, and we invested, brothers and sisters had blogs, and we invested, I think like 2006, 2009, 8. I know I stopped at like 8, but like this was like excessive writing about how we saw the world. And that's that period. I thought I was just like flying past time, but it was like I was enthused about what I was learning, and I wanted to portray my understandings. But that period, I realized now when I'm writing, and it's like, not to be vain, but it's like, I'm like, damn, I got 5 pages already. It's because I built a muscle memory type with the act of writing and employing language, and, you know, creating sentences of adventure, if I may, from Rakim. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna give a ask, and that is, you know, or even a challenge, because to me the value of writing is it's a way to get something down, and even if you're not sure what you're gonna do with it yet. I mean, it may just end up being for you, but it's hard. It's easy sometimes, especially if your work daily doesn't require you to do it, to like make sure you make that time. So I'm gonna ask you to be my writing accountability partner.
Okay,
right?
that's peace.
So I want you to hit me with it. You know, maybe we talk about the details offline, but maybe like, you know, you make the call like, God, you got to send me some text that you wrote this week or something. You know what I mean?
Okay,
so you know, and it won't be like I'm gonna send you. I know you doing the doctorate. You don't need to do 4,000 words of what Rajee's thinking, but some evidence that I wrote something this week.
Yeah, you know, that's
mean?
peace, because that's actually an exchange. Because even if I'm like at a grocery store and I pick up a magazine, if I look through that paragraph, I see certain language that jumps out on me, and I can utilize it or flip it. You know, I come from a background of we don't bite. You know what I'm saying? Like if you use hip hop head, the whole idea of biting. You know, even like, you know, fashion. I would be high school. Somebody, yo, where'd you get that at? They would tell you a lie because they didn't want you biting. You know what I'm saying? So when I see certain language, like if you send me text for the past week, I'm like, wow, like I like the way you utilize that word, or way that, you know. But yeah, we definitely could do that. I had another thought, but it's slipping my mind right now. But
that's big.
But yeah, so I'm gonna definitely hold you accountable to that writing piece. Oh, so yeah, I was gonna say, like, if I see something and I can't write, I'll hit the audio of my phone, and be like, her skin is like dusk on the eastern horizon, boop, and that's it. And like that'll just be the quote that, you know what I'm saying, that I want to keep, so I can revisit it in the future. It's something, you know, when I think about, because I've been spottingly and reflexively using Nas's album. It's an album. He said he was taking it back 10 years. I can't remember, but it's almost like renewing that history. And in that album, I can't even remember. Excuse me, pardon me.
That's all right.
I can't even remember. I lost a thought.
All right, don't worry about it. Well, I want to bring us to my closing question because as I'd like this to be the first of a future appearance on the podcast. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with what the rest of our night holds. So the thing I've been ending the show with recently, is there either maybe a music album or a movie, something that you look at it now and you don't feel the same as you felt about it maybe when you saw it, when you were younger or a couple of years ago or even recently?
Without question, man.
Give me something.
Higher learning and school days. And in fact, I recommend it to parents who have children who are approaching college, because Higher Learning, created in 1995 by John Singleton, is so eerily reflective of 2019 as it pertains to higher education and race relations and black students navigating PWIs. Okay. It's like, I don't know when the last time you saw it, but I guarantee
seen it in a minute, but
I guarantee you, if you watch it 2019 and keep in mind of when he wrote it, it's like, yo, the same stuff is happening on PWIs, or it may make you think about your experience at a PWI. But there's one scene in there, speaking of writing, there's one scene in there when Omar Epps is getting drilled by Tyra Banks because she's helping him with writing. Freshman writing is an issue because in high school, students aren't properly prepared how to compose sentences effectively, not just to appear to the white world, but just to make sense, So there's a scene in there in that, and actually there's 5% representation in there as well with Busta Rhymes, and there's a scene where he demonstrates his self-efficacy. He's a little angry during the movie, but he demonstrates his self-efficacy and his self-divinity. And I was like, from even like Fudge, played by Ice Cube, the setting of his home and thinking about brothers in colleges living together and the type of social capital, you're going to be able to relate to that. Yeah. And the other movie I said was School Days, and I watched School Days last week, so I have a fresh take on it. But one of the most interesting things about School Days, besides seeing how young Lawrence Fishburne was, terribly young he was, and watching him now on Grownish. I watched Grownish with my daughter. I mean, she'll be at campus at college, and I'll be wherever I'm at. But that's something we've grown to watch together, kind of like how Different World was back in the day. But School Days was interesting because of the town and gown relationship. And town and gown is, for the listening audience, is the relationship between the university and the neighborhood. And the neighborhood where the university is at. And there's a scene when Spike Lee, his movie, but Spike Lee's Morehouse brother, Samuel Jackson, and Lawrence Fishburne get into it at maybe like a KFC. And they're arguing about who thinks who's better, and but it shows that relationship because on university campuses, you got these people who are coming from different cities. Because you remember, even Dwayne Wayne was in the movie. He was clearly from New York. Yeah. And they're they come to these universities and they acquire all this knowledge and information. And essentially, some of the time they leave, but the people who live there don't get it. So it's a certain type of divide. I've always been interested in how to make that bond from even my days playing basketball at Trees Hall and seeing like, oh yeah, they from around the way. But they from around the way, I could tell they from DC around the way because of they slouch socks, So the movie School Days, that scene is like, that scene is everything. That scene, as well as because it was a musical, but the colorism that exists amongst original people, but they show how it's relative on campuses, and it's very parallel to the adage: if you black, get back; if you brown, stick around; if you yellow, you mellow; and if you white, you all right. But it's shown in the it's shown in the movie. So anyways, those are my two movies for everybody. Higher Learning and School Days, especially in this time period where higher education is under scrutiny because of privilege and individuals being admitted into campuses and not earning it. So I recommend those.
Word up. Man, well, on the future episode, we'll return to that conversation.
Oh, you want to see it?
I want to talk about those two again, but also this recent issue with the being revealed in terms of people's using money and influence to enter these institutions. But I would like this story to develop a little bit more so that when we can talk about it, it'll be more substrate for us to pick apart because there's a whole lot of stuff in there. So
okay,
Divine Culture, my brother. Thank you for joining me.
Justice, thank you for having me. I look forward to more of your creative visionary, you know what I'm saying, your leadership and modeling. And thank you all for being a listening audience this evening. Yes, peace.
Sir. All right. This has been the Ask Your Oldhead podcast with Justice Rajee. Peace. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ask Your Oldhead podcast. This season, we're trying to grow and go to some other places and do some new things. And a part of that growth is I'm looking for creative partners. I'm also haven't totally teased out how to look, some sponsors who, if you like what I'm doing and you believe that this seems like something that is a worthy effort to continue, contact me via any of the streams that you'll see in the show notes or on the notes on the page. Or wherever you download the podcast, is all that should be in there. And get in touch with me. This is all something I started this as a creative project. I'm going into 4 years. And I'm over 40 episodes, not including the things I've recorded that you haven't even heard yet. So suffice it to say, we're closer to 60 in reality, although 40 have been released, but we'll be past 60 by the end of the year. So, I believe in this effort to create and develop a space to center and focus on engaging black men and eventually other men of color, men who may identify similarly in terms of their experience or spacing and take something from it, and anybody that can take something from what I'm doing. But in terms of my targeting around who we are, how we define ourselves, what do we and what do I, because this is definitely an autobiographical reality. It's not an attempt to be objective and separate from the subject matter that I'm talking about and that I'm engaging with. So, if you enjoy what I'm doing, if you think that it has promise or something that maybe you would want to add on to, reach out to me. Let's see where we can connect. I'm definitely looking to do probably 2 live events before the year's out here in Portland where I reside, and I'll be game to go someplace else. And hey man, real talk, you got somewhere you need somebody to come say something, holla at a player. So in any event, thank you for listening to this episode. You can find me on the internet now at just Justice Rajee, that's JusticeRajee on Twitter and on Instagram. You can hit the shop if you want to support the art to culture movement. Grab yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie, keep yourself warm in the cooler months, keep yourself sharp, on the square as it pertains to some areas of focus and study. Any time of year with a t-shirt or wherever you wear your t-shirts. Hey, and feel free. I do have a women's cut in there. I know it's important, but also understand, it's your t-shirt, man. You buy it, you want to re-edit that joint, you want to chop it up, you want to put some frills on it, whatever. You want to make a crop top. It's none of my business. It's your shirt. Live your life, live the dream. So with that, thank you again to my guest, my good brother Divine Culture, for sharing and adding on with me. Thank you to you for listening and engaging in this creative project with me, and I look to talk to you soon again. This is Justice Rajee, and thank you for listening to the Ask Your Oldhead podcast. Peace.